Number 24 EXP team moves over to LPT Realty is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm here with Steve Myers, who is the team leader, founder, operator of Urban Cool Homes, and we're going to just kind of discuss what he saw, why he moved with everything, and kind of discuss from his perspective what LPT Realty provides and kind of where he sees he's going and that whole thing. So, what's up, Steven? How's it going?
It's going great, man. Sun's out. It's March. Can't, get an extra hour of daylight right now. So I'm pumped about that.
Yep. Well, I'm pumped to have you on here for people to get to know you and us and our situation just a little bit more so that they can get to know Steven more. Because I know people know Urban Cool Homes and how much success you've had, but they don't always like know you personally a whole lot with everything. But I'm curious to hear, like, from your perspective, like what prompted you to move to LPT Realty?
For me, like I'm always looking at what's the best option for my team. For
Mhm.
me, the team has always been the most important part of the piece.
Yeah.
When I originally went over from brick and mortar brokerage to EXP, one of the big reasons was because EXP was a really good place to grow a team.
Yeah.
Um, and it was always team first for me. I know there's other benefits of like EXP that some people moved over for, but for me, it was a really good environment to grow a team.
Yeah.
And what was exciting about me is like when I came across LPT, it was kind of brought to me about a year ago, and I was like, you know what, it just doesn't make sense. At the time, I was just still kind of like knee deep on growing the team to where I wanted to. LPT was still a little new. I probably maybe should have looked at it a little bit harder than I did because it was just like, you kind of get a lot of stuff sent to you when you're the biggest, one of the biggest teams in the state. People are like, hey, you should join this brokerage, or hey, you should come over here, or here's this benefit. People just throw stuff at you. So you kind of
Right.
have to just kind of not always, chase. You don't want to be chasing this shiny object. You want to be like, okay, well, I'm here to grow my team. I want to bring agents on. I want them to be successful. I want them to make a lot of money. I want them, I obviously want to build good branding. I want to build, have clients have a great experience. So you just got a lot of things going, and the brokerage is really just a small piece of that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes agents think it's a much bigger piece, but really it isn't, right? Like it's if you're really building a team in the correct fashion, if you're really a top producing agent, it's more about you, it's more about the team than it really is the brokerage that you're attached with.
Yeah. I mean, it's transactions first, and then that goes with the team. And like, really, that's where all the revenue and things are coming from, which is like when you and I started, like, that's kind of what we started to figure out that it's like we got to figure out how to produce transactions as an agent. And then it always stays that way of like transactions, real estate revenue first, then all the other stuff that supports it, as far as like a team, a brokerage, leads, marketing, all those things. And it's like, where's the best platform we can produce at? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like the consumer is really at the core of all this. Where can we service the consumer the best? And that's where you've seen like switching not just brokerages, but like the amount of change I've seen you switch and bring to the market is impressive. Because if you don't know this, for Steven's story, like you went from what, 300 units in 2022 to like 555 in 23.
Yeah, I think we were like, yeah, 292 to like 555. Yeah.
So that can give you some perspective here. If people don't know your numbers, your stories, like, we don't want to be braggadocious people, but you do kind of need to talk about the numbers and the results and like what you're basing things off of. Like, it's not just some blowhard coming through here discussing this move from where he's at to where he's at before. Cause you see a lot of agents, like you said, switch brokerages thinking the brokerage is going to be the answer and then still don't go produce like at the next brokerage with everything. So when you did start to like open up your mind a little bit to LPT, like what was it that finally got you to open up, look at it, and be like, okay, yeah, this is why we're going from where we're at to LPT?
Well, I mean, I think one thing that was really stuck out to me was, kind of LPT stands for, the original precursor was listing power tools.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when we grow the team, when I started the team, kind of when most agents start, especially when you're focusing on online lead generation, which was a big pillar for us when we started the team. You're really heavy buyer focused. I mean, that's just part of how it happens, right? You get these buyers in your pipeline. Traction mostly from lead generation is from buyers.
Yep.
Um, so it's like part of me is like I was ready to kind of like, okay, how do I make this shift into being more of a listing company as opposed to just, majority. I think like last year we're 70% buyers, 30% sellers. So if I
Mm-hmm.
can move that needle more to 60-40, how can I do that? Right. And
Yeah,
so some, it's like, what tools, what options do I have? So, the listing power tool part of LPT, that's a really, that was a really important piece because it just allows us to have a little bit of an edge from a marketing perspective to get more listings, to get in more doors, to kind of provide a better experience for the seller, to get the seller
yeah,
more opportunities to sell their home. And in return, you're going to attract more sellers to you.
yeah,
And that's just going to be an important part of like as we continue to grow in the market. And now obviously as we start to see all these kind of lawsuits and things going on, like kind of focusing on the buy side of it, it's like, okay, it's really an important time to really dig deeper on the listing side of the business. And become like more of a listing company.
yeah. And at the end of the day, listings sell because of marketing and advertising, and really any good business is ran off of marketing and advertising. And from what we've seen you do with Urban Cool Homes, and just grow that thing like crazy from marketing and advertising. And then the brokerage LPT is very big on marketing and advertising. That's just in alignment where we've seen in the past, like some of these other brokerages we've been like aren't real keen on our marketing and advertising things, even though like we're not doing anything like against the rules. It's just new and innovative, and sometimes it can be restrictive if your brokerage isn't allowing you to market and advertise like you need to in order to service the client and get the home sold. And when it comes to listings, like it's a lot more on a marketing advertising scale. And what do you do there compared to others? Compared to like buyers agents, is a lot of hustle. And so it's like
Yeah.
seeing that shift, like we got to be in alignment with the company that's not only going to agree with us, but also support us with like all of the marketing tools LPT has. Like, I don't know if you can speak on some of that from the back end of what you've seen from the number of
Yeah.
doing listings, like what that's like.
Just like right here, right? Like, I just have it on my desk because let me unblur my camera here real fast.
Yeah, unblur it so
Um,
you can see it.
yeah, so like, but with each listing, you get one of these for free. You have to spend 20 bucks for shipping and handling, but as a, but you get some pretty cool marketing material,
Yeah.
writer, and I stated in a video the other day,
Oh,
it's
you
like
got
I
a paint
don't
too.
really don't need to really plan on using that just because we already have our own, but
Yeah,
kind of more. But for a lot of agents that are newer and that don't have the tools that we have, it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to add.
right.
But like you have all this marketing material in here,
Yeah,
uh, to kind of really help. There's flyers, there's door hangers, there's business cards with the house on it, there's large business cards, there's thank you letters, there's these large flyers, there's neighborhood market reports that you can add on when it's an actual listing. This is just like the one that LPT hands you when you sign up, but
yeah,
it's not based on a listing. But yeah, the fact that you have like that kind of material, you can put it at open houses, you can canvas the neighborhood with it, you can present it to your other buyers and sellers that you're working with. There's just, to get that kind of material, it's 180 pieces of marketing for
hmm,
20 bucks delivered to you, that's customized to you, that's branded to you, that's
yeah.
branded to the house. It's just hard to not take that opportunity and really run with it, right? So
Well, it seems like it marries really well with your brand already and a lot of the strategies and activities you're doing. Like this just makes you even more effective as a marketing agent for that listing, which as we've seen, like listings aren't so easy to sell as they used to be. It's not just throw them on the MLS and they sell. It's like, what is your multi-pronged marketing and sales approach to actually get this thing done? And if your strategy is just throw a shine in the yard, throw in the MLS and pray it sells, like a lot of agents are, like you're kind of toast. And I think most sellers know this too. They're like, I'm not impressed by any of this marketing sales strategies or lack of, like with this. And so having a brokerage that gets that, that understands that, and is like on this like same page with you to be like, you got a list to last, like most of us agents know. But to get the listing, what is the marketing you're providing that's different than any other agent? And your brokerage is supporting you in doing that, not only from like allowing what you do, but then also providing the support materials with the power pack and the tools and the strategies that go with it all on everything, because you and
yeah,
I see it left and right in our market and just in the industry, how much you can do that's possible, but how little can be done too, like that agents just are missing the mark. And I think that's what you and I are both really passionate on, is kind of this new era of marketing and sales service that comes with real estate agents and just
yeah,
really
100.
hitting the mark. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think like what we're seeing too is we're seeing this new world that we're moving into, the AI, the post-COVID world, where it's like, yes, digital is important, digital is going to be important moving forward, but people also want real tangible things in front of them, and that's
Yeah.
it's becoming more important than I think it has been in the past like 10, 15 years. The
Hmm.
big change when we first started was, getting everything digital, doing the digital signatures, doing,
Right.
you know, not, sending everything PDF wise. But now it's like we're almost kind of going back to the where print material is important, to where people want something that they can actually hold and feel and
Right.
touch.
Well, it's because
And
we got so drunk on digital and everybody went digital, and then you left this void at print, and you're like, hold on a sec, like it still works. Like do both. Because like digital is cool to get the interest, but then in-person print material, human connection, like all those things that are classic, like still work. So it's not like you abandon it, but you also don't abandon it, like go all digital and abandon it. Like you got to marry them together, seems like. So
yeah, I mean, and I think it depends. I mean, I hear people in different markets say different things, but for me,
mhm.
like, I don't get a lot of real estate related mail. I mean, to my home address,
Mhm.
I different markets like in California stuff. It's obviously more competitive because of the
Sure.
higher prices, but in the Wichita area, like we're not getting that. So I'm not
Yeah.
getting that. It's in my neighborhood, and I live in one of the more popular neighborhoods in town to live in. So
You live in probably the most popular. So
yeah,
I think you'd be
yeah,
getting it all the time.
yeah, exactly. So like you're like, okay, well, if I'm not even getting that kind of material at my house, then there's got to be a lot of other, neighborhoods that aren't getting that kind of material too. So
Right.
again, it's like where you're able to provide a luxury experience to people not even at a luxury price point. I think people like really will envision that as being a really successful thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think too that, and with LPT, they have a luxury packages for even like a luxury power tools box. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more expensive. It's not free. I think it's a couple $100, but it's
Right.
it's a level above, right? So like when you
Sure.
get that 500, $600 million listing, you
Right.
can that material up to that next level. And so like I think stuff like that's really important is like, okay, well, we want all of our sellers to have a really good experience. But then we also want to be able to distinguish our more luxury listings
Mhm.
to a different level. So I
Yeah.
think both are really awesome. I'm super excited to kind of see how that grows in that way. But yeah, I mean that to me was one of the biggest things is a company that really understands the power of marketing, that understands the power of print, that
Mhm.
understands what it's going to take for that next level of real estate agents. And the fact of the matter is that like I said, I mean, I we have a lot of stuff that we do print at a print facility. But it's taken me, it's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap, and it also takes time from setting it up in Canva or wherever, and making sure it prints out right. And so for newer agents and agents that don't have a big support staff like we do, I mean, that does take time. So the fact that you don't even have to have a big support staff to be able to do this is a game changer in my mind.
So that's a really good segue of what I wanted to ask you about next, because you talked about cheap and time, which is money and time. And you've seen like as an agent, you don't have a lot of money when you first start out, and you have a lot of time. So you're able to like do all these things. Then you start to make some money and you're like, okay, I want to advertise on this, but where do I spend my money? Like, where's my money going on everything? Like, and we had to kind of switch from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage to look at different pay plans to allow us to like spend the money on marketing advertising we wanted to. I want you to kind of like maybe give your perspective on some of the fee structures for like a newer agent, existing team, and some of the costs that go at the back end. Cause I think that's one of the most misunderstood things about our current industry is how much it costs now, even just to run a business and marketing, advertise. And then with that, the pay plan, the comp plan from your brokerage, and kind of like you said, like, where's my money going for what I'm getting? Like, can you speak on some of that as far as like the pay structure and the things that go in with that? So,
Well, I think, for me, one of the things that I always like to tell agents, especially newer agents, is the thing about brokerages, right, is you have to have a brokerage, right? Like that's just one of the things. It's like the IRS. The IRS exists. The IRS is going to
Yeah,
collect tax money from you when you make money. Same thing, a brokerage. A brokerage is going to collect money from you when you make money.
right,
That's an important part because some of them also collect money when you don't make money. So that's something you probably want to actually look at too. So because as an agent, you're constantly getting fees and stuff like that from all over the place. And if your
right,
brokerage them, you definitely want to make sure you keep that in check.
right.
But so something that's important, is like, is like, okay, well, once you kind of look at that the brokerage is going to take money. So then of course you're going to look at like time versus value or money versus value. Like what
Yep,
am I getting? What kind of value am I getting for this money that I'm giving them? Because
right,
I think originally kind of when I started, I was kind of more like, oh, I want to keep more of my money. Well, by doing that, I went to a few different brokerages that didn't provide a ton of support, right? And when you're a new agent, that's really tough.
yep,
Um, but there also wasn't like a reason for the brokerage to really, companies that have lower fees, they don't really have a benefit for you to be there
right,
to do a lot of business. So they want to keep your 5, 10 deals, whatever, and they're happy because they're collecting your money. So so it's always important to kind of imagine like, okay, well, I want to make sure you keep my money. That's always important, but you also want to make sure that you don't fall into the 80, whatever, 85% that don't make it 2 years, right? So like you gotta balance that out. Like it's a lot to learn.
right.
I always tell people like being a real estate agent, it's actually like people think it's one job, but it's actually like 10 jobs. You just don't
Yeah.
realize when you get started. And so the problem is like when you're at 100% place or you're at a place that doesn't have a lot of service, then you're doing 10 different jobs. So
Right,
but so that's kind of like when you're looking at brokerages, you just kind of want to see like, okay, value to time, value to price, like where am I getting at? So but what I like about LPT is they really have kind of changed like the value equation. So they're the first, brokerage that I've really seen. I'm sure there's others that exist that have a two different option approach. One being like a traditional 80/20 with a 15K cap, and the other one being a $5,000 flat fee, $500 per file transaction. And I think that's really, really smart because again, I think that it kind of targets two different people. So on the one that you build the traditional kind of cap model, I mean, there's things that you can do. You can unlock different higher badges, you can unlock stock options, you can unlock, starting a team, running a team, you can unlock broker offices, stuff like that. You can also collect revenue share. But if we go look more at like the other model, then it's more of like, okay, well, I'm going to be here. I'm going to get the same tools and support that I'm going to get, but I'm just going to pay $500 fee. I'm not going to get revenue share. I can't start a team on
yeah,
that
and there's no
structure.
monthly fees, like you said,
But
like
there's
you said,
yeah, and there's no monthly fees. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, I can make sure I can keep as much money in my pocket as possible. The nice thing is like you're gonna have like an LPT, you're gonna have a sponsor who, and if you have a sponsor that is a more on the that is on the revenue share model, then you're going to be able, like, they're going to be rewarded by you being successful. So they have an incentive for you to be successful. They have a reason to mentor you, and you have more than just one person that's going to, be over you. So then you can also leverage those other people that are ahead of, above you to really grow and get mentorship and stuff like that. Because I think a lot of people, when you come into real estate, like you expect mentorship to be free. You expect all these things, like,
right,
but if you're a successful agent, what is your incentive to mentor someone, right? Like, I mean, at the
right,
kindness of my heart, sure, but that you're not going to get a lot of value for that. I mean, you're going to be like bottom of the line. Maybe I'll give you a little bit of value, but it's not going to be consistent. Like a top producing agent is going to be making, $500,000 per hour, so in some cases, right? So like,
right,
I'm not going to give you an hour of my time for free and get nothing in return for it. So
right,
a lot of times people have this misconception like, okay, you can maybe go get mentorship, but who are you getting mentorship from?
right,
Are you getting mentorship from someone who isn't selling a lot of homes? Was that really who you wanted to be mentored by, or is that just enough to get you by to maybe make it a year in the industry? So,
Right.
so I think these are some important questions that, again, they don't really tell you about this when you're getting your license. They don't really bring this stuff up to you. Everyone's kind of like, oh, you should go here, you should go here, you should go here. They don't really
Yeah.
have any good reasons why, except that they had a good experience there. They know an agent that's successful there.
Yeah.
But I mean, a successful agent, I mean, let's just be honest, a successful agent is probably going to be successful at anywhere they go. It's just
Yep.
this becomes a matter of like, we got to get you to get successful. But then once you're there, it's like, okay, well, then it becomes a matter of like, okay, how can I keep the most money in my pocket? How can I contribute the most to people? And
Right.
that's where I think that's where I think it's important where LPT comes in, because they kind of have flipped that on approach. Whereas like some companies, especially the cloud-based companies, but some of the other, brick and mortars, they
Hmm.
have like revenue profit share models, right? And some are more lead with that, but something that people never really think about is when it comes to profit share, revenue share models, that works really well for the 1%.
Right.
But for most people, they don't, most people, I think, like we could just look at EXP as like as an indicator, right? Like there's a lot of people, like the top 100 agents in EXP make a lot of money off revenue share,
Right.
but most agents recruit one or two agents and that's it, right? Like I think
Right. So
90% of
that
agents
model
have,
doesn't work for like
yeah,
70% of the field. That's kind
yeah.
of where
So
I think they saw that at LPT, and we saw it too, that it's like it wasn't available before. Now it's available.
yeah,
So
yeah. And so what's nice is like, yeah, so like when you're at like a model, like some of the other ones, this is, maybe we take EXP as an example, you have $16,000 that you have to contribute to them for a cap. And then you have another 200 transactions at 250, they hit the 5,000, they hit their icon. So, you're kind of almost in 21,000 before, you're really like the true kind of 100% outside of a transaction fee with them.
right.
Uh, and that's a lot of money to be spending just giving to someone when you can get maybe a similar return, or maybe in some people's eyes a better return, like an LPT for 5,000, right?
Right.
So and $15,000, I mean that's a significant amount of money to a lot of
Right.
people.
I mean,
Maybe
you can imagine spending that money on marketing instead of being like, am I better spending that money on marketing or paying my broker for
yeah,
that? Because a lot of ways marketing and leads would get you more than what you're paying your broker.
yeah. Or you could go, sign up for like a Tom Ferry or something like that for, $1,000 a month and get some like more personalized coaching, right? Like, I mean, there's
Yep.
other ways to spend that money to kind of help you get to that next level.
Yeah.
So I think, so I think that's just always something to kind of balance out, right? I mean, again, you look at maybe like Keller Williams, where Keller Williams is going to be even higher
Hmm.
from a revenue share, from a cap payment structure.
Right.
They're more like 24, 25,000, at least in our market. I know
Right.
other markets are even higher. So there's just things that it's like, okay, well, and you just have, like, so you just have to weigh the pros and cons. Like, if you have the opportunity to have a really good mentor at Keller Williams or a really good mentor at EXP, like that's probably really invaluable if you don't have another option for a better person.
Right.
If you can find someone that is a similar value at, LPT or maybe some other company, I mean, that might be a better option with that as well. So it's
So
just a matter of,
I'm gonna shamelessly plug you and I for that then.
yeah,
So
right.
what kind of offers and options for that, like with you and LPT and us, like why don't you kind of break down some of that stuff for people that are watching as far as like partnering with you and the fee structure and the compensation, and break that down. Like what's that look like? Someone's like,
I
hey,
mean,
I like what you're saying, Steve. I like what you're about. How do I talk to you about joining or meeting up or partnering in some way, shape, or form? What's that look like?
right. I mean, some of the things that the way that looks like is like, like we have our network, we're gonna grow our network within LPT. And part of that is, we're going to, part of our network is we're gonna have, trainings on how to use the LPT systems, trainings on how to build a team, trainings on how to use a CRM better, right? Like we're gonna do that. We're gonna have, there's one-on-one opportunities that you have to kind of get with us too, and kind of be like, okay, well, help me kind of unlock this next level. Because we want to see the people that come in our organization, that come in LPT to be successful. We want to see them grow as agents. We want to see them accomplish the kind of goals that they, when they got their real estate license, that they wanted to accomplish. And a lot of that is hard work, but a lot of it is like making sure you kind of get the cheat codes per se on like how to do better, right? Like like if you take a regular agent and then you take their conversion rate and you're able to double that, you can make you can make twice as much amounts of money on with the same amount of opportunity. So
What I
that's a
would
much,
argue, honestly, it's more about those cheat codes than working hard, because you and I both work hard. And I think a lot of people subscribe to the work hard ethic and then they realize, like, why is hard work not getting me somewhere? There's something these guys know or these people know that, like, I don't, that for some reason these guys got a strategy, cheat codes, insight, whatever you want to call it, that obviously is producing them success. That if I
right.
could just get in on it, like, then I would know too. Because I think a lot of agents work hard. It's just they work hard at a lot of wrong things, or their hard work doesn't pay off. Like, it's not all just how hard you work. Like, it's got to be smart. It's got to be effective
Yeah.
with it.
And I think some people think they're working
Results.
hard, but in reality, they're really not working as hard as they think they are. They're just, we've all been there, right? Like, I mean, there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I worked 40 plus hours in the week or whatever. But then
Yeah.
it's like,
What'd
well,
you get
what
done?
actual work did I do? Was I surfing on my phone? Was I trying to avoid making phone? Like again, like it was
Yeah.
like I dedicated the time, I put the time in, right?
Right.
But time wasn't as focused as it should have been. I wasn't as hyper focused on like this activity for this amount of time. And before I moved on to this activity, it's like, okay, well, I got in, I made a couple prospecting calls, but then I got distracted with some transaction work, and then there's a couple people that came in the office and we bullshitted about whatever, right? And then it's like, then I made some more prospecting calls, and then I went to go show a house, and but it's like, okay, well, I definitely put time in, I definitely worked hard, right? But it's like I didn't really focus my time, right? So
Yeah.
so I think like a lot of it is like, like it's kind of like just having these honest conversations about ourselves is like, are we dedicating this, are we actually hyper focusing, are we building ourselves a successful plan?
Hmm.
And then are we executing that plan? And that's really what it comes down to, is just fully just committing to a plan and executing that plan. And as
Yeah.
long as we're doing the right activity in the right ways, like we're going to be successful. It's really like it's really just a numbers game in real estate. It's just and the more you get into it, the more you realize it. Like, man, this actually isn't as complicated as I thought it was. It's just I just never actually focused on doing the right work in the right order.
Yeah.
So
It's hard. We avoid the hard stuff. So we make it complicated to try to do easy, complicated stuff. And it's
yeah,
like, just do the hard, simple stuff, which is actually produce the results. And, I think
right.
I've been the most impressed by seeing your back end system. Like, because any of you that don't know Steve don't know that he used to be a rocket scientist. I always brag about that for him. It's like the back end systems that he's created with those numbers, like you said, with the data, and like it's a pretty like understandable, clear cut thing where it's not a guessing game like of how to make it real estate. When you track the numbers, track the data, and the numbers tell a story. And usually it has to do with, and I say numbers like not production numbers, like activity numbers. Like, how many conversations are you having? Like, who did you talk to? How did it go? Like, just measuring all that goes with it. And then obviously there's the emotion and psychology behind it all, which I nerd out on, but it's all got to match up with the numbers. Like, what do the
Yeah,
numbers say so that we can deal with the emotion and psychology behavior so we can behave differently to get the numbers we want? Like,
yeah,
it's really
no,
not a much a guessing game as we make it out to. It's just you got to break it down and look at it, and everything. So as far
yeah.
as partnering with you, talking with you, if people want to get to know you more, have more of these discussions personally on their custom situation, how do you recommend they reach out to you, follow you, get a hold of you, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, just follow me on Facebook or Instagram and shoot me a DM. And then I'll shoot you over like a Calendly link, and we can get some time set up on a calendar and get on a call and just figure out like, hey, is this, again, like I'm gonna be very honest, like LPT might not be the best option for a lot of people, right? Like it may
Mhm.
not. I mean, I think it is a good option for a lot of people, but I don't think it's the right option for everyone.
Sure.
But I think it's important to really get into like, hey, what is the biggest, when we have these conversations, what is the biggest thing that's preventing you from being successful in real estate right now? What can I, and again, like this doesn't have to be just flat out, let's talk about how great LPT is. It's like, how can we help leverage your situation to get you to be more successful? What does that
Yeah.
look like? What would
Right.
you be happy with, right? Like, is this a conversation about your business, about how I operate my business, and about how I can make some recommendations? And I would maybe love to learn things that you guys are doing that I haven't thought about, because there's a lot of stuff out there I'm always constantly learning, and like, hey, that works out really well. Like I like that. I like that strategy. That's a great strategy to get more listings, or it's a great strategy to to help a buyer, whatever it is, right? Like I'm always open-minded about things that I can do to add to my business. So I think just having like an important, just having that conversation, just, just seeing like what works best for you, what do we think, what big changes we can make to help get you to where you want to be. And if you're already successful in high producing, like what does the next level of your business look like? Are you going to want to, leverage like kind of what Ben and I have as a production partner, a showing partner model? Do you want maybe bring in an ISA? If you bring in an ISA, like, we have training to help with ISAs, we have training to help with showing partners. We
And the
have all
VAs,
this.
that's another big one too. That's a big
Yeah,
mystery to a lot of people is VAs, and those
yeah,
have been amazing to work with.
virtual assistants from the Philippines. I mean, they're huge to add to your business and leverage yourself. So again, it's like, okay, we've been successful in getting people from selling, not even one house to selling, 30, 40, 50 houses in a year. But then we also have been successful in getting people going from 50 to 100, and then how do we leverage ourselves, to move forward. So now a lot of people are going to be like, hey, I just want to sell 50 and I want to do it the most efficiently way possible. Great, we can figure that out, right?
And then it's a bowl of getting
So
your time back. It's not necessarily selling more houses and making more money. It's like, how do I get my time back? Like, because
right,
we
yeah,
know from the hustle and grind of this, like it could consume your entire life. It's not about making more money now. It's like, how do I get more time with the same amount of money? Like, and that's a whole nother new battle that
right,
like most high producers get to. They're like, I know I can produce. I just don't have
yeah,
any time. Like I have no life. Like,
yeah. And again, like it could be like, hey, I have a full-time job. I want to earn some money on the side, right? Or I'm a
yep,
mom and I want to make sure I could be able to spend more time with my kids, but I still want to make some more money and like during the day and during the nights and evenings or whatever. It's like we can help with that, right? Like we can put a plan to work on that and
yep,
figure out ways that we can make it, that we can make real estate, whatever your success is, we can help her put parameters and goals and commitments around that to make sure you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish with real estate.
yep.
So yeah, like I really don't like seeing people, getting into the industry and then having a bad taste in your mouth and getting out, right? Like it
Right,
sucks. Like you're gonna spend that time, you're gonna spend that money, you're gonna have those hopes and dreams of what real estate's gonna do for you, but then you're gonna get discouraged because you're just not in the right space.
right.
You're not in the right, you're not around the right people. And that's really important. And I think that's, again, kind of talking on Ben's point, I think one of the most important things that I think we constantly discount is being around people that are doing what we want to do.
Yep,
Right. And so like it's like you have an opportunity here with like LPT, with coming into kind of our organization and being around people that are producing at a high level, that are, so like Ben's more focused on like kind of that lifestyle balance,
yep,
where I'm more focused on growing the team in a way. So but we both have very similar things that we know work really well, and then he also has things on like what works better for him on balancing as an agent versus me as a team lead, right? So
yep.
but but you want to get yourself around those kind of people, have those conversations, like, because like when you start getting into higher level, like what objections are you seeing, what are the interest rates doing, like those are the kind of conversations you need to be having with the people that are in your circle, as opposed to like, sometimes when you're in the least the people that aren't necessarily producing, it becomes like, all these like issues that why they can't be successful, right? Like,
Right.
oh, my CRM is not working great, or oh, I just don't get people that want to buy with me, or oh, like they have
Yep.
all these excuses, and it's like
Misery
those are
loves company.
those are just excuses, and if you get in the right people, they're going to be like, hey, those are just little stepping stones. We just got to figure out how to step over them.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time today. I know it's super
Yeah.
valuable with everything you have going on. If you want to follow Steve, go follow his Facebook, his Instagram. I'm sure we'll drop some links down below too, just to get in contact with him or I, depending on who you're wanting to talk to or whatever resonates with you. But Steve's information and insight is super valuable. You don't usually get access to somebody doing this type of volume, and he's probably been one of the most successful, open, conversational type of person like this, where you can just have a conversation with them, and he really caters it to whatever your custom specific situation is, not like a one size fits all type of thing. So appreciate your partnership and your friendship over the years, and appreciate
Yep.
you doing this
Awesome.
interview to help kind of tell people about what's going on. And we'll just leave it at that, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.
Later.